Hi everyone, welcome to the Art of the Possible series. I'm Nihali Niyogi and I'm a principal cloud architect focused on advanced networking. And with me, I have my co-host Cynthia Treger, who is a Azure Networking Global Black Belt. Cynthia is partnering with me on the ISV series, and this video is part 2 of the Cisco SD-WAN series. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. We have an amazing panel of presenters and networking SMEs today in the Q&A panel, both from Cisco and from Microsoft side. So welcome, everyone. Quick recap of part 1. We started with team intros. Joe and Jeff provided us a leadership and strategic perspective on the Cisco-Microsoft partnership, followed by an awesome presentation from Steve grounding us with SD-WAN basics and Cisco Plug and Play Portal, SD-WAN Manager. Nitisha gave us a nice Cisco SD-WAN solution overview. So be sure to check out part 1, link in the description. Picking up where we left off, today's focus, as you see on my screen, is Cloud OnRamp for vWAN. And I'm sharing the official documentation over here. We also looked at the design guide from Cisco here. And for completeness, I will also share the documentation from Azure vWAN documentation. And if you go under partners and SD-WAN connectivity partners, we have the Cisco SD-WAN over here. And I also want to call out 2 amazing blogs written by Cynthia. So if you are in the SD-WAN space, be sure to check out 2 blogs from our Azure networking community blog. She has written 2 amazing quality blogs over here. All right, and by the time you watch the recording, everything that we present today, all the diagrams will be available under the diagrams folder on the Azure Networking Art of the Possible GitHub repo. So today we'll pick up where we left off with Nitisha. Nitisha will kick us off. Cynthia is going to walk us through SD-WAN flows, and Mia has prepared some awesome demos for us, followed by troubleshooting with Steve. So lots of action. Let's get started. Over to you, Nitisha.
Thank you, Nihali. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I'm here to talk to you about our cloud on ramp integration with Microsoft Azure. If you did miss part 1, I would strongly recommend go back there. There was some, as Nihali said, awesome video about the basics of SD-WAN, how we go about, configuring devices and just like getting started with what are the different components of SD-WAN. And today we're going to talk more around the cloud on-ramp piece of it. So I'll start off with 2 recap slides. So 2 important things that I do want to make sure you didn't miss is, first of all, if you are interested in SD-WAN, then we do have SD-WAN available on the Azure Cloud Marketplace through the private offer programs. We have the Cisco SD-WAN subscriptions as well as the Catalyst 8000V, the virtual router subscriptions on Marketplace through private offer. 8000V is also available in a pay-as-you-go model or as a bring your own license model. So whatever is your preferred mode of deployment, it's available there. And why we are talking about it today is just because we've heard such amazing things from our customers when they heard about this program. It has helped them retire their cloud spend commits. So if you are nearing the end of your year and you still have a little bit of room there to make up for your commits, and SD-WAN is something on your radar that you're thinking about, don't hesitate, reach out to our sales and partner teams, and they'll be more than happy to walk you through what cloud marketplace transactions look like. And if your finance department for some reason forgot to budget, we all know how that happens. You can still use the Microsoft Azure committed budget to procure SD-WAN. And finally, it's just ease of transactability. If this is something that you're comfortable with transacting on the marketplace and you do want to keep it as a single source of all your buying motions, then again, SD-WAN with controllers hosted in Azure is the way to, sorry, private offers are the way to procure SD-WAN with controllers hosted in Azure. The other piece I want to talk about, which is again a recap from the previous one, uh, is just the four core pillars of Cisco SD-WAN Cloud on Ramp. The first one is SaaS optimization, and we do have an amazing day three session coming on this. So I will not talk too much, but suffice to say, whether you have public SaaS or custom SaaS apps in the cloud or anywhere for that matter, you can optimize your experience and optimize your traffic patterns to those apps using Cloud on Ramp for SaaS. The other two pieces which kind of coexist is Cloud on Ramp for multi-cloud and Cloud on Ramp for middle mile. With multi-cloud, what we do is help you automate bring up of infrastructure inside the cloud. So you can bring up your routers and you can even bring up, Azure vWAN or for other cloud providers, similar constructs, and build your network from the on-premise branches and data centers onto your cloud edge locations in a very quick and easy to understand and easy to follow way. And again, this is something that is unified across the three clouds. We'll talk more about it today. The other piece is middle mile. And we talk about it separately is because it's a new use case. It's a unique use case. A lot of our customers have, these huge middle miles, which are a composite of multiple uh, private vendors and ISP vendors all joined together in a very ad hoc manner. And sometimes what that leads to is not a lot of reliable connectivity. Even if one thing falls down, your entire network falls. And secondly, it's almost very painful sometimes to bring up those middle mile connections anytime you have a new location globally. What we do is we work with our middle mile vendors and we work with our cloud partners to help you use their private backbones to customize and to bring up this middle mile seamlessly in a very quick fashion. And these are middle miles that have been already, optimized for the cloud traffic. And finally, we talk about security. Now, this is actually not so much as a pillar as a cornerstone, because security is a part of everything we do today in our lives. So security, we covered a little bit about how we do that, and I think Nia is going to talk a little bit more, but we do want to talk about multi-cloud defense. It's an independent Cisco product, but it is built natively for the cloud, security in the cloud, whether it's at a VNet level or whether it's at a vHub level. You have multiple deployment options, and Cisco SD-WAN seamlessly integrates with multi-cloud defense. And the other piece is service insertion. So any Cisco or third-party services that you have deployed, you can actually bring them into the path of your data through service insertion capabilities of Cisco SD-WAN. And these are services that are deployed by thousands of our customers. So I would strongly recommend, please check it out, listen to our, wonderful presentations and make up your own mind. So this is a diagrammatic view of something I just talked about. So cloud on ramp is the blanket term for this particular feature, but it has a feature of SaaS optimization. It also has cloud interconnect, which is the middle mile piece. But what I will be talking about today is the cloud on ramp automation for our multi-cloud. So, and we'll be focusing on Azure. What the beauty of this cloud on ramp is that the capabilities of the automation are normalized. And when I say normalized, it means the same 5 steps we use irrespective of the cloud provider you use. So if you already have done it with one cloud, it's very easy to, deploy it for other cloud providers if in a multi-cloud scenario, or you've done it for one Azure region and you want to maybe replicate it for the second, third, fourth regions. Again, once you've set it up, it's very simple, it's very quick. In a matter of minutes, you can actually bring up infrastructure in new cloud regions. I already talked about all the benefits. We'll be talking them ad hoc, but the benefits are listed clearly at the end of session one. So please go in there and listen in. This is more of a architectural view of what this cloud on ramp means. What is multi-cloud connectivity from a Cisco SD-WAN perspective? So the big squares that you see in blue over here are what we like to call as cloud gateways. Now, a cloud gateway is nothing but a combination of our Cisco 8000V virtual router as well as the cloud native router, which in this case is not really a router, but like a larger concept of a vHub. So a vHub and a CGW and a C8K put together is what we call a cloud gateway. And a cloud gateway, you'll be hearing more when you see the demo today. It's the building block of our cloud on ramp connectivity. So think about it. A cloud gateway is almost like a point of presence inside the cloud region at the edge. And once you have gateways deployed in all the regions you want, inside all the clouds you want, what you can do is you can do inter-region connectivity, you can do cloud-to-cloud connectivity, you can do branch-to-cloud connectivity, all through the same infrastructure that you've just gone and deployed inside the cloud. So a cloud gateway kind of becomes your building block for your multi-cloud architecture. Here you see another thing, which is an SDCI POP, also known as co-location. So if you also have co-location presence already, right, you have a rack inside a colo and you want to use that and connect that into your cloud gateway, that is also something that's possible. So, as I said, site to cloud, site to site, co-location to the cloud. Any of those combinations are possible with Cloud on Ramp. These are the use cases I just talked about, more of a visual representation. So from your enterprise sites, you deploy a gateway inside the cloud and build up the connectivity over the internet to all these different cloud providers. So this is your sites no longer have to backhaul through the data center. You can have a direct branch to site connectivity with all the security and encryption of Cisco SD-WAN and any of the other security capabilities you want to insert in here. The other option is, or the other use case is enterprise site to enterprise site. So what you see here is you have two locations. Maybe you have one in North America, maybe you have another office location in Europe. And this is the middle mile piece that I was talking about. Now you want to have connectivity between these two regions. One of the traditional options is to just do that connectivity, using your third-party providers. But what you could also do is if you've already done site to cloud connectivity, you have gateways deployed at the cloud edge. So there's gateway in region one and there's gateway in region two. And all you can do is leverage the Azure backbone here, which is already optimized and, so such a high performing backbone, and use that to build connectivity between these two gateways, which are already connected to sites. And that kind of gives you an end-to-end site-to-site connectivity. So again, it's the same infrastructure, nothing. Inside the Cloud on Ramp automation, it's the click of a button where you say, yes, I want site-to-site connectivity. And this entire thing is brought up by the automation. So all you need to do is express your intent. One thing actually I did not talk about in site to cloud and my miss is you are not going there just to go into a region, right? What you're going into cloud is to access your applications, access your workloads inside these regions. And what we do is not just give you a visibility, not just a connectivity till the cloud edge, but actually you can discover your different applications. You can give them tags, and you can define your intent on which all tags should be connected through your cloud gateways. So right from the site, right till the end of the application residing in the cloud, that entire connectivity is brought up by the cloud gateways or by cloud on ramp. And the third piece is we live in a multi-cloud world, right? We don't have one single cloud. So what is often needed in a very distributed application kind of scenario is cloud to cloud connectivity. And here what we see is there are two different clouds. It could be in adjacent regions, these could be very far away regions, but you can establish connectivity between these two clouds. And I think that's again a use case Mia's going to cover in her demo. So these are the three very simplified use cases that we're going to talk about and with some nuances built in. And with that, I'll hand it over to Cynthia to give you a more of a visual representation of this piece.
Excellent. Thanks, Natasha. Yeah, so
Thank you.
next, great presentation here. So next, Cynthia and I are going to go over the architecture. So you guys can see my screen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So this would look very familiar to you. We have, let me move this Teams button out of the way. Yeah, so this is a multi-region vWAN design. So you can see one vHub in the east and one in the west. Oops, one in the west. And then let's connect a few branches. So we have a site-to-site connected branch and an express route connected branch in both the regions. And then let's talk about a scenario where a customer has an existing SD-WAN fabric. It's not yet connected to vWAN. Okay, so how do we do that? So for that, we saw in Natasha's presentation that, and Steve also showed us the SD-WAN manager overview yesterday. So with this construct of the SD-WAN manager in the cloud, we would deploy. So from a placement perspective, the 8000V or any SD-WAN appliance for that matter would sit in the vHub. And using this SD-WAN manager, which is nothing but, if you remember in Steve's slide, it's hosted in Cisco's cloud. And what will happen is we will establish a subscription level permission between SD-WAN manager and the Azure subscription. And after we do that, we could deploy the Catalyst 8000V. I've shown the two icons over here. Nitisha mentioned the cloud gateways. These are deployed using the SD-WAN manager. So the moment we do that, we deploy it, it will become part of the fabric. So this is where it is a very seamless experience. Once you deploy it, it becomes part of the broader fabric. So with that, Cynthia, I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through the different flows at this point, now that everything's part of the fabric.
Yeah, thank you, Nihali. And yes, with this solution, we have now the SD-WAN overlay extended up to the Azure environment. And any SD-WAN branch would be able to contact directly spoke VNets in the region where the SD-WAN hub in Azure is deployed, the managed SD-WAN hub in Azure is deployed. But because of virtual WAN and the inter-region connectivity, that SD-WAN branch could also reach remote spokes, so in the other region, and even remote SD-WAN branches of another overlay attached to the hub in that other region. We also have the ability from the SD-WAN branch. Sorry, I missed the connectivity with the existing like VPN or express route branches. So yeah, this is something that is enabled as well with the branch-to-branch feature in virtual WAN. And next, I think we have Yeah, okay. So SD-WAN branch to SD-WAN branch. So from one region to the other, leveraging the interhop connectivity of virtual WAN.
Yep.
And then
Do you want to
I
talk a
think
little bit about security as well?
exactly, yeah. So here we're talking about having managed SD-WAN NVAs in virtual WAN, but in virtual WAN or in any Azure environment, customer also are looking for firewall protection and inspection. And we have different options to combine that in virtual WAN today. It's not the topic of this session, but yeah, definitely many different options to have security on top of that SD-WAN connectivity in virtual WAN.
Yeah, and for that, I think I mentioned this blog again. So Cynthia has written an amazing blog on combining firewall protection and SD-WAN connectivity in virtual WAN. So that's not the topic for today, but if you do need that, there's some amazing content over here as well.
Thank you.
Cynthia, anything else before we turn it over to Mia for a demo?
No, I think
Any other questions? Yeah.
no, I think we've covered it all. Thanks, Nihali.
Okay, excellent. So with this in mind, this design in mind, Mia is going to go over some demos. So over to you, Mia.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen, Nihali. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
And I will start. You've seen the SD-WAN manager, but I'm starting with the slides. Do you see the slides as well?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is a slide where we try to explain what exactly our automation is able to deploy. So when you look at the slide, it's okay. The physical enterprise sites that can be run all over the world as Azure, so the virtual environment, and you may have your workloads in Azure. And the question that most of the network engineer, but also cloud operation people are asking, like how to seamlessly connect people from the physical location to the virtual location. And this is where Catalyst SD-WAN comes in place with Virtual Hub. So with our automation, you can deploy both pair of Catalyst 8000V, vHub, but also in case you don't have anything you don't have any vWAN, you can also deploy the vWAN itself. So we are taking care of creating vWAN from scratch from the networking side. We are creating vHub and we are creating Catalyst 8000V and the connectivity between them. And probably when you look at the slide, you're asking yourself, oh, but there are two virtual appliances from Cisco. What about the scale? I need more. And don't worry about that. I can already answer that question before you're worried about that. You can have up to 5 instances of virtual Catalyst 8000Vs in one vHub deployed, but also you can deploy up to 8 vHubs in one region. So in case you need a very big scale, we really support that, and it's possible. I will share later a documentation where we actually cover that things, so you can double check that. But what I want to highlight here is that whichever piece of this networking vWAN part you don't have in your network, you can deploy it from Catalyst 8000V manager, and it can be done with UI if you like UIs, or you can do it with API calls, because as you can see, a manager is talking to the cloud with the API calls. Second use case that I would like to bring up to you is VPN gateway. So there are situations when you don't want to deploy routers because you have a site which one or two sites that need a direct access to the resources with bigger pipe of bandwidth available, or just you are using the solution from Cisco that is called SD routing. So you use the automation for managing, but not for security, for policies. In that situation, we are able, with our automation, again, deploy all of the pieces that are given here. So you can deploy vWAN, vHub, and the built-in feature of Microsoft Azure, which is VPN gateway. I will show you that live in the demo environment that I have. So those are the use cases of site to cloud talking. We can talk to the cloud over NVA, so network virtual appliance with Catalyst 8000V, or we can talk to the cloud with built-in Microsoft feature called VPN gateway. Next use case that I want to cover with the slides is Azure site to site. Where we are talking about between regions. So as you can see here, there is a region 1 and there is region 2. And with Catalyst 8000V, you are able to extend the policies, the rules, and the traffic rules that you're using on the physical sites to the cloud. And with virtual WAN, you can build the SD-WAN tunnel that will let the hubs talk with each other over the SD-WAN routers again and talk to the other region. So we are supporting with Azure the region to region use cases when you want to use Azure cloud as a backbone. So, and again, this is something that I can refer to from Nitisha's point before she was presenting, that this is the construct of Cloud Gateway. And I will probably repeat in my demo the name Cloud Gateway multiple times. So in Azure terms, it basically means that it can be X amount of Catalyst 8000V and Azure vHub. Which we are deploying together with resource group and vWAN, whatever is needed for the customer. And all of this is done with 5 steps to build your cloud connectivity. I brought a screenshot from my lab here, just in case you will not be able to watch the whole video, just to give you a look into how easy it is. There is literally 5 steps here, which are going to allow you to talk from physical location to the cloud, and we are guiding you through the entire workflow. And although we are today focusing on Azure, and we are very happy with our Azure partnership, what we are trying to do is we are trying to make it seamless and unified between different cloud providers. So the constructs of the cloud, even though different, we are covering them. And same with SDCI, so middle mile providers like Megaport and Equinix. In case you are wondering, okay, but what about security? Security in the cloud, security from the cloud. There are, depending on point of view, it can be different whether you want to protect your physical network from the cloud or the other way around. Either way, we are helping with doing that. So our Catalyst 8000V has built-in a new generation firewall feature, so you can actually use it while connecting to the cloud. So you would use the firewall on the NVA itself, but also, as Nitisha mentioned earlier, we have a Cisco cloud native product called Multicloud Defense that has a 3-step automation that will deploy the VNet, in which you will have the multi-cloud defense, and it will do firewalling as well, if that's the way you want to use it, but also policing and data loss prevention policies. So please also check out multi-cloud defense if cloud security or traffic security between cloud and physical locations is something of your concern. And with this, I'm gonna switch to demo, so you can get excited. I will go to my browser, and I'm gonna start with, are there any questions so far to what I've been talking about?
Yes, please. Yeah, can you just go back on the previous slide?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so it's about the built-in NGFW features on the Catalyst 8000V. So does that mean that today, when we have an SD-WAN deployment in vWAN, it has east-west, north-south filtering capabilities?
So I'm not 100% sure about the full coverage. So the firewalls are based on IPs, and they can be or location. We cover all 4 use cases, but I can double check, and maybe we will give a link to new generation firewall capabilities in the description box. However, the south north south is there for sure. I'm just wondering exactly how it works for east west.
Okay, thank you.
And I have one more question, Mia. Going back to your couple slides before this one, I just wanted to call out, if you go back to the, this one. So I see that you have the VNets in CloudOps subscription and the vHub itself in the network team subscription. So this is a very common scenario that we see different teams managing it. So how does it work? Can you establish trust between multiple subscription with the SD-WAN manager?
Yes, that's correct. We differentiate between network subscription and cloud ops subscription in terms of we support the use case when you have vHub and NVAs in the same subscription, but we are also allowing you to build trusted relationship with other subscription and connect from the subscription of your networking team to application subscription that you're using. So in this example, we are seeing 2 subscription, but we know that there are customers who have way more subscription, and we support that as well. There is just each of the subscription will have to be separately associated with SD-WAN Manager, which I can show you later in the demo.
Excellent. Thanks, Mia.
So one more time, we switch to demo. And I would just want to give you a little intro that I have 2 demo setups. They are labs, so they are not real networks, but one of them is very much developed. So this is the empty one where we will be showing greenfield, and there is one more that I have running where I already have some network going on. So I will be switching between those 2. And I also have my Azure portal open, so I will be from time to time switching here as well, just to show you where exactly I'm from. Coming from when it comes to the discussion. We start with the greenfield. So we're going to go to the configuration, the cloud OnRamp for multi-cloud. And here is the thing that I call, that we call in Cisco like 5 steps, very simple 5 steps to connecting to the cloud. So our automation cover 5 steps that allows you to talk to the resources in the cloud. First step is, of course, associating your cloud account with manager so that manager has the right to talk to the cloud. Then there are some default settings that we are setting for our cloud gateways, for our cloud deployments. Followingly, we have adding VPCs or VNets. And in case of Azure, it means that we are able to discover VNets, virtual networks from multiple subscription. So as many subscription as you add here as the part of the add account workflow, you would be able to find those subscription here. These VNets here, and Why would you do that? It's because of the last step of adding the connection. So actually, once you create gateway, create the Catalyst 8000V in the cloud, in Azure, in NVA, in vWAN, you're actually able to build tunnels directly to your resources in the cloud, to your applications, to whatever workload VNets you have from this add connection flow. I'm going to show it to you a little later, but let's start with the very basics. So I'm just going to show you that this is the main dashboard that you would see when you're going to Cloud OnRamp for Multicloud. As you can see, I already have something deployed in other cloud provider, but we are focusing today on Azure. And you can see that I have account associated and a gateway here. Just for your information, this account has to have contributor, this association has to have contributor rights to work on resources in the cloud. So when we will, there is a documentation for that, and I'm sure we can also share a link of how to associate the account. In case you have any problems, just make sure that the account, the app registration that you created for manager has the contributor rights to work on. So let's actually go here to the gateway and see that we have at the moment 0 gateways, and we go to add gateway. I have my account already. Oh, wait, actually, I should probably start with the global settings. Let me switch here for a second. So global settings, here's the place where you would put information that will be later populated in the workflow. So you can define what would be the software image that as default should be proposed in your deployment, what should be the SKU scale that should be used, and the IP subnet pool, which is, let me refer to the Azure naming convention. This is called exactly private address space, but I'm going to show you exactly in the process of deployment what is it referring to. So we go here and again, gateway management, we are going to Azure and we are adding the gateway and we are creating a new one. So we would call it Azure Demo Gateway. And I was working last evening to make sure that everything is working for the live demo, and I deployed successfully things in Central US, so that's why I'm using Central US. I think you lost me for a second. Am I back?
Yes, I wasn't sure if it was me. Did we lose Mia for a little bit, everyone?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so so Mia, you could start where you said last night I deployed it in Central US is where I think was the last thing I
So
heard.
actually the problem was very brief because I didn't go much further. You can
Okay,
still see
good.
my screen, right?
Okay, fair.
You can still see my screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see, I was testing in Central US, so that's why I'm using Central US here. But we are supporting all of the Azure regions as long as there are the instances that we are using for Catalyst 8000V. And here's the beauty of the automation. If you have greenfield, and in this scenario, I have a greenfield, meaning I don't have vWAN, I don't have virtual WAN, I don't have resource group, I don't have virtual hub, and you can actually create them from this place. So it's going to show you all of the resource group that you have in that subscription, but in our case, we don't have resource groups specific for vWAN, so we are going to create one. So we are creating new resource group from this place. You don't have to go to Azure portal. It's going to be automatically created. Then again, the same thing with virtual WAN. the API call is going to check whether this resource group has any virtual WAN to be used. But since we just created this resource group, of course, there is nothing. So we are creating a new one. And last but not least is the virtual hub. In the brownfield scenario, I'm going to show you that we can actually discover virtual hubs in the regions, but for now we are just keeping the option of creating a new virtual hub in Azure. Next step would be, so this would be, I want to say this is cloud provider specific. So we are talking about concepts that are specific for Azure, while the next step is a little bit more about the device itself. So the first one is solution type. It's a vHub with NVA. This is the one that we're going to use. There is also an option of vHub with VPN. What is vHub with VPN? I can briefly show you on one of the examples that I have in another vWAN deployed. In Europe East, when I go to the vHub in Europe East, you can actually see that the automation can create a gateway, the native Azure gateway, a VPN gateway in the cloud. So we are not using NVA as we are using when with the deployment of Catalyst 8000 Vs. However, we are deploying VPN. This is very useful if you're, for example, not using Catalyst SD-WAN, but you're using SD routing solution from Cisco. But I showed you also that earlier on the slides. Coming back to the workflow, we are talking about NVA, so our deployment will not create this piece, but we will have here a gateway to be managed. Site name, there is an option to create a new one, but you can also, there is a create new here, but you can also create it in advance, and I did Azure demo for you guys. Then there is software. These are the fields that are populated from the global settings that I showed you earlier today. And here is the configuration group. So the configuration group is a construct that makes sure that the devices have the right configuration. And you don't have to worry about, oh my God, what I should have there, because the automation actually creates the configuration groups with all the configuration lines that it actually needs. I already did one with the automation, so I can reuse it, but also if you just create new, it's going to show you a pop-up and you'll just give the name and then automation actually creates it itself. But we will go with the one that I already once used here. And as you can see in the last place, we have chassis numbers, so the actual Catalyst 8000V populated here. In case you wanted to use different or specific one, you can still choose from the drop-down. But this is a little bit, this is up to you, whether you have like specific devices in mind or you're happy to change it depending on your needs. I see that there is hand raised. Cynthia, what's the question?
Yes, thank you, Miha. I just had one question on the SKU scale represented for the gateway, and I would like to understand to what they refer to. If there is any information you could share about both the SKU and the instance count, please.
Yes. So as you can see, the SKU scale is allowing us to deploy in this region up to 5 instances. And actually, I have a documentation open that, let me switch to this tab. So you can actually see here that these are the instance type in Azure that we are supporting. And as long as this instance type is available in the region, then we are supporting that. What does it mean for the number of Catalyst 8000 Vs that are being deployed? So depending on the instance, we are going to with up to 5 Catalyst 8000V, and we are using 16 CPU and 64 gigabit memory. You can see here a little note that support in Azure with Central US and Australia regions. This has changed very recently because at the moment of deployment of the solution, the bigger instances were not available everywhere. So nowadays, if the instance is there, we are supporting the bigger instances as well. So you have to double check with Azure whether in the region that you want to do your deployment, this is needed. Did I answer your question, Cynthia? Is there any follow up to the one that I just said, or?
Yeah, very clear. Thank you, Mia. I just have one more question. Sorry. Do you have any information regarding the associated throughput to each SKU?
We do, but for the viewers, I recommend going to your account team. So we are not publicly sharing the numbers just on like a configuration or like release notes. We have a data sheet that is available for all of our account teams to show to the customers, because it's very dependent on the feature that you're using. So I can of course tell you that, oh, you can deploy Catalyst 8000V in the VNet and achieve 80 gigs of throughput, but then we are talking about jumbo packets and VNets, and this is not really a realistic scenario. So I'm if you are interested in the exact throughput numbers and exact good recommendation for your use case, I would say go to your account team and double check with them what does the data sheet is saying.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Maybe I have one more question
Sure.
regarding the upgrade, if it's possible. So what if a customer wants to move from like 10 SKU to 20 SKU?
It's possible. It is possible. So I can maybe briefly show you actually in the brownfield demo that I have ready, that when we go to gateway management, and as you can see, I have in this setup, I have already something deployed. If I go to edit the gateway, I will be able to, so not everything is editable, but there are things like SKU scale that you can actually change. It will cause some downtime, sorry. So there is about 4 minutes of downtime that can happen. But alternatively, you can also deploy a new VNet and a new vHub in the same region, because we are supporting multiple vHubs in the same region, and then just take down turn off the one that have a lower SKU scale, just to make sure that you don't have any downtime during that time. But in general, the SKU scale change is supported both up and down. So if you have like peak hours and then you have to switch to something lower, it goes the other way as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome. Let's go back to the demo then. We just were talking about the SKU scale. So again, here you have the choice. Because it's the demo and I don't want to create extra costs for the lab, I'm just going with the 2 SKU scale. The next step would be to fill in variables. It will either prompt you to make sure that you put the system IP information, unless you already did that in the earlier stage. I didn't, because it's a green field, so it says like make sure that there is system IP. And I'm going to do this. It's this system IP is not an actual IP. This is more like a number that you can use as a identifier of the router. And here I'm just doing 60.0.2. I see, Nehali, that you have a raised hand. Tell me what's the question.
Yeah, so Mia, the host name over here that you gave router 1 and router 2, and then in the first screen you had a cloud gateway name. So I just wanted to make sure that is that cloud gateway name the name for the vHub, right? So if you
So the cloud gateway name is a name for the construct of cloud gateway, and cloud gateway can be a vHub with NVA. And in general, yes, it's going to be the name that is used for vHub, but at the same time, you have to be aware that here, for example, we are deploying 2 devices, right? So
Right.
the gateway name is referring to one thing, the bigger construct, the one that puts in together 2 devices. And here is we are identifying the 2 devices within the cloud gateway name. Did it
Got
answer
it.
your question?
Yeah, so if you do you mind going to the first page
Yes.
of the, yeah, and if you hover over the information bubble over here, um, is this what the vHub will be called? Was
Yes.
my question. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
It would be the
perfect.
name of the vCap.
The name of the vHub. So like if we wanted, we could have called it Central US over here.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Mia.
Okay. Coming back to configuration devices parameters. The automation is checking whether we made any changes in the previous steps, but we didn't. And here is our device-specific parameters. And then there is a summary where you can still edit something. So if you realize, oh my God, I made a typo, you can click edit and come back to the previous step. Now I'm gonna click deploy. So I feel a thrill of the moment because live demos are always coming with a little risks, but let's be hopeful. And once this loading, this buffering is finished, we should be able to see, oh, exactly, that the deploy request was successfully submitted, and you can actually go to view task monitoring page, and here you can view the logs of what's actually happening in the moment. So now we are creating resource group. It's going to take some time because please be aware that it's creating resource group, creating vWAN, creating vHub, and on top of that, NVA with Catalyst 8000V. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see the success here because of the time schedule, but I will show you exactly how it looks like when it's actually deployed. So let me switch to the brownfield scenario. So let's go to this view. I can maybe zoom in a little bit so it's easier for you to see when you're watching it on the smaller screen. So this is a brownfield. I have a lot of things already going on, both in the cloud side and also on SDCI side. And again, we are focusing on Azure. And you can see that I already have the 2 gateways deployed. 2 gateways, meaning that from this screen, from this workload, I deployed 2 vHubs with something inside. And the name here is SDR. This is the naming convention that I try to follow in the cloud. So if I'm using SDR, it means that this SD routing specific device. And let me show you the vWAN that it's actually operating in. This is the vWAN. And you can see that, hey, you actually have 3 vHubs here. Yes, it's because I prepared one vHub that doesn't have anything inside without VPN sites or without NVAs. But our vWAN, from perspective of manager, doesn't know about this vWAN until now because we are not using it for cloud operation of networking things from SD-WAN manager perspective. This vHub already has NVA deployed, so this is exactly what you would see in our greenfield scenario after there is a successful story. So you see the whole vHub created, and as Nehali asked, this was the name that I gave to the cloud gateway, and this is the NVA that has the Catalyst 8000V deployed. And also, as I mentioned earlier, there is the Azure SD routing where we didn't create the NVA, but we created the VPN sites. So we are actually focusing on this West US since I'm talking to you from San Jose. This is the one that we are going to work with. We already have the vHub, but we don't have NVA inside. So we go back to the gateway management and we add gateway. I see there is Nehali raising hand. Please go on, Nehali.
Yeah, so Mia, when it is a brownfield environment, I see that in the Azure portal, if you switch back to the Azure portal
Yes.
and go to the vHub in question, where there is a workflow where if you go under, I think, is it connectivity, where you can add the NVA. Oh, yeah. So if you go
No, when I go here,
to the hub, sorry, if you go
yes,
to
I
the
go to
hub.
the hub, and then actually here is the block create.
Yeah. So what's the difference? What's the difference in the workflow if someone tries to do it from here versus doing it from the SD-WAN manager?
So the difference there is in terms of the difference, there is not much difference of what you have to prepare, because what you have to bring here is like make sure that you have bootstrap configuration, and the workflow itself is pretty straightforward and guided through. What we are trying to show customers is that if you're not using the cloud native workloads for the deployments, you're able to manage the devices from one dashboard of multi-cloud. So what does it mean is like when I go back to the manager, if I go to Cloud OnRamp for multi-cloud, I won't be able to see the NVA deployed in Azure in this place. I will be able to see the devices and monitoring devices, but it won't be visible from Cloud OnRamp for multi-cloud. And what does it mean? You cannot also work with the extra features of cloud connectivity, so creating tunnels from cloud gateway to you would have to do it all manually in the cloud. And what we are trying to support here are the network engineers who are sometimes asked to work with cloud connectivity, and they would like to stay within the network dashboard and not switch to the cloud one. I hope this answered your question.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, Mia. Yeah.
Yes, so let me go back to the creation of the gateway. And let me just quickly copy the name here. So I have it saved. And I already deployed some gateways, as you could see. So the account is already given to me. And I'm going to paste here the name of the vHub that I already have in the cloud. I'm choosing the West US one because this is the one that, let me just double confirm. Yes, West US. And what you're gonna see here is the brownfield scenario, meaning that the resource group is already populated here, the vWAN is already populated here, and also as you can see, we discovered the vHub that is in this region, in this resource group, and in this vWAN. And what you can still see here that you can still deploy a new one in case you want to do multiple vHubs. It's supported, but just to show you a different use case, I'm going to use this one. And then we click next. Again, we are here seeing the solution. We keep these values the same. Oh God, too many demos I tried to do recently. So maybe I will just go with a create new one. Azure demo. Oh, let's just go Azure demo. The rest of the values is up to you, so you don't have to put them in. I created the new site. I have a software image populated SKU scale, and here you can see that I cannot actually edit the subnet pool because, again, the subnet pool is referring actually to private address space of vHub. So you can see that this address is actually the same address that we see here that is grayed out. So you cannot edit it because you are already using an existing vHub. Configuration group. Again, I already deployed something in the past, so I'm just going to use the one that I already did. And then there are two chassis numbers populated here. I can show you in the dropdown that if you have a specific devices that you want to use, you can do that. Multi-region settings is by default set for border routers. In case you're using multi-region fabric, it would be a little bit more use case specific of what role you're choosing. However, it would require a whole new video to explain your multi-region fabric because this is not cloud specific, this is SD-WAN specific where we are creating the hierarchy. So I'm just keeping that setting. I'm going to the next step when again I will be prompted out to fill in the variables of the devices. And again I have to do the system IP. I'm saving this, editing this one. I'm changing the names just because I'm working in a similar subscription, so I just want to make sure that I'm able to see the difference between the previous routers and these ones. But of course, the host name is just to follow your naming convention. And again, feeling the thrill of deploying live. Here is the gateway management, where you can still review what you've done and maybe make any changes. And you can, I'm going to click deploy and feel the adrenaline rush going through my veins to see if we have a successful deployment here, or just at least successful start of the process. We do. And the same, you have the monitoring page where you can look at the status of the deployment. So you can see that it's like we are not creating, we are fetching the data, right? So you are fetching the information about the resource group, storage account, vWAN, and vHub, and you start with creating MVA. There's a few things that I want to, before I finish the demo of the brownfield and greenfield, I want to call out. So in the past, when I was working with Nahali and Cynthia and we were discussing things, that there was a situation where I didn't see devices in this here, the chassis number. After choosing the configuration, the chassis numbers did not populate it for me. What does it mean? It means that you don't have free Catalyst 8000V in your manager available. And for this, I'm going to refer to the video that Stephen recorded with Nahali yesterday, where they are talking about how to add actually virtual devices to your account. So if you have problem with that, please make sure that it's you have a free devices. Where you can see that is actually in the devices here, and just look if there are any devices that are down or just simply not used. In case it's your lab environment, like my lab environment, you probably very often create, delete devices, or change some stuff. So you have to make sure that you are properly cleaning up after yourself. Because I had 3 devices when I was doing my last tests, but the devices were not properly clean, meaning that they had some values assigned, some configuration group assigned, and because of that, they were not showing up here. So the pre-step of coming here is making sure that you have available devices. Another thing that may be new for some of you is the configuration group. So I was showing on in both scenarios configuration group, but this is not the only way to deploy that. When you go to your multi-cloud and global settings, you're going to see that in Azure, I have the enable configuration group. And I recommend using this feature even if you're using templates in the rest of your network, because this will make your life easier when it comes to managing later in the future your gateways. And I'm talking about people who are using at least 2015, maybe 2012. With 2012 software release, I would double check with your account team. But in general, if you're up to date with the software releases, I would say go to configuration group. In case this is disabled and you're not using configuration group, what you would have to do before kicking off the workflow, you would go to the classic templates here, and you would find the default template. Let me show you. When I put Azure here, it's going to show you default Azure vWAN template, where you can actually copy this one and just create. I'm pretty sure that if I do all, you're going to see that I that there is quite a few with Azure, which are basically a copy of that one, and you can easily reuse them, meaning that you have to attach devices here, and once you attach devices here, you will be able to see them in the workflow of Cloud OnRamp for Multicloud. To not finish in this spot, I just want to highlight a few more things. VPC and VNet tags. So here we are able to discover the VNets that we have in the cloud. So you can see here that I have a lot of VNets that are in the cloud, and you can find them and you can give them a tag. And what the tag, I think I should have something that has a tag, or maybe not. I do have some things with the tags already given, so you will be able to see in a second why I would use these tags. But a question that Nehali asked me at some point of the process is this account name part. So here you can see that all of them are from the same account, so they are all from the same subscription. And you don't have to worry about that, because when you go to manage account and you go to Azure, you can still add more accounts in this workflow. The difference is that you should be using the same account for gateway deployment. So your gateway deployment, your Catalyst 8000V deployment should be the same, let's say, network operations subscription. However, if you want to discover resources that are deployed in different subscription, you can still associate your account following the steps. I can give Nehali a YouTube video of how to go through this add account steps. And then you would see this account here, and then here in the VNets tags, you would see different accounts here. And why the tags? Why am I even bothering you about this? It's because the extra value added, as I mentioned earlier, is the cloud connection piece. So it's going to take a second to fetch the information here. But when we go to actually Azure, you're going to see the two tags that I have created. And those two tags are identifying our VNets, our whatever we have in the cloud, our workloads. You can attach one tag to multiple VNets, or you can have a tag per VNet. What you're doing here is when you go to edit, you can actually build, when you remove that, it means that you're gonna delete I'm going to show you maybe an Azure portal. You're gonna add or remove virtual network connections from this level. So this is what we are actually working on here. We are not finding an existing virtual network connection. So if it's brownfield in this piece, we are not recognizing this. We are not able to pull that information. However, once you create a connection in Manager that is already existing, you can then later delete it as well. So once you create these green boxes, and it means that there is intent realized here, I'm not going to push any changes just because we already have a deployment going on, but it means that we are creating this virtual network connection. And we can also, by removing those green boxes, we are also deleting the network connection. So truly you can manage the access to your workloads from SD-WAN Manager without going to Azure portal. You can already see that I see the prompt here that my network is out of compliance. It means that there are devices that don't have the license assigned here. When you actually go here, it's going to show you there is a workflow of assigning licenses. I'm not going to do it yet because the task of the deployment is still going on. So I don't want to interfere with that, but the click here is going to show you how to assign the proper license, the license that you have assigned to your account. Let me maybe briefly see how we are going on the greenfield. The deployment is still going on, and this is the status. And I think this is the end of my demo. So if you're raising your hand, Nehali, just go with your question.
Okay, thanks, Mia. They're awesome demos. So one thing you had shown me, and maybe for the benefit of our viewers, was the correlation between the tag that you applied here, and then you had shown me how they look in the VNet. So if you want to open up the VNet in
Yes, I should
question.
be able. I should have at least one with tag. When we go here. So in Manager, you could see that I have 2 tags for Azure. Those are the 2 tags. And when we go to Azure, well, that's not the one I wanted to use. Let me see. Or maybe I know it wasn't the other. This one here. It should be. Here you can see that I have the virtual network connection established. I'm happy that things are also loading in Azure and not only in SD-WAN Manager. You know, there's a lot of data going on and fetching takes sometimes. So both in Manager and Azure, we sometimes see some buffering just because, here it is. So you can see that this one has one virtual connection. So I have one VNet. We can go to that VNet directly. And here you can see the tag itself. So there is actually a field tag in the overview, but also here. And then you see that Cisco SD-WAN version 2, it means that it was created by Manager. This is how we recognize the tags, that these are our tags, and this is the actual tag itself. So this is how it looks like in your network.
Awesome.
Okie
Thanks
dokie.
for showing that. I think I have one more question, Mia. You touched upon this briefly, but when it comes to versions, could you go back to the SD-WAN manager where you have the control plane components?
Yes. So probably you would like to be here,
I think it
or
was
maybe actually just go
overview. I think
here.
was it. I saw some place where you had devices. Yeah, control plane components. Yeah. So if you could just touch upon the different versions in question. So there is these validator, controller, manager versions, and then you have the version for the actual SD-WAN manager itself. Is how does the update and upgrade work for those? What would be your recommendation to stay up to date with that?
So first of all, control components, meaning validator, controller, and manager, those have to be on the same software release. This is our recommendation to always follow this. And this has to be on, I mean, of course, in the Cisco software.cisco.com, you can find the recommended release. And a separate topic is the routers software release. So those have to be on the same or lower software release. There is a matrix that shows whether the release of controllers is the release of controllers is compatible with WAN edges. This is very dependent on your network because usually you keep them in the same one, but sometimes you have like one side which cannot have downtime, and because of that the upgrade is still being postponed or something like that. So you can find information in our release notes whether you can keep the routers on the lower software release. And when it comes to the upgrading of either of those, we have a maintenance where maintenance and manager, where you have software repository and software upgrade, where we have a upgrade for both routers itself and the controllers. So you can do it from the level of SD-WAN manager. The upgrade of control components is not going to cause any downtime on your network if you have that properly configured. And then WAN edges depends on how big is the upgrade. If you're changing between completely different releases, then there may be some downtime. Again, information about the upgrades, how it should be done, and everything is is publicly available, so you should be able to find that information depending again on your software release. And I can just maybe show you that this manager is running on 2016 software release, so latest and greatest. I'm showing you something that was released in December last year.
I see. And the images, if I remember it correctly, were showing 1715, right?
Yes, I believe for the routers,
So it
you
has
can
to
see
be
that
lower.
yes.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm using some of them are on 2017, some of them are on 2016. It's just, or even older ones are on 1714. Those are still compatible, but you have to make sure that this one is not on a higher version than the control components. So the number that you're actually interested in this one, 15 or 16 in this case, is referring to this second number here as well. There will be a change of making it more unified, so you don't have to understand this differentiation. But for now, the second number is what's the most important for the user of Catalyst SD-WAN.
Got it. Thank you.
I can just maybe for later, if once the deployments are finished, I can maybe send you a screenshot or quick screen recording of like, hey, it was successful, but I'm just not sure.
Is it still running? Yeah.
Yes.
Is it still okay? Yeah, in progress. Yeah, no worries. No, this is good. The idea is to see the process. Looks like it's progressing, and I mean, if you click on the resource group in Azure, you would probably see the resources over there. I think that
Yes,
might be,
that's correct. So
and a corresponding deployment, I would think. So if you go to the resource group.
How did I call it? I called it
yeah, yeah, that's it.
oh yeah. So you can already see that the resource group is already created.
Yeah, so if you click on the resource group, you would probably see a corresponding, yes, it's starting to get populated. And if you click on the deployments on the left,
This or not this?
yeah, that one, it probably, oh, so that one doesn't show up here, but you could see the resources getting
But you
provision.
can see them already here.
Yeah, you can already see the resources. Yeah, so this is good, Mia. No worries about getting to see it to completion. Let's see. I think we have 8 more minutes. Cynthia, anything, anyone, any other questions that we have for Mia? I'm just going through my list. Mia, one question. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cynthia.
No, I was just saying I think we are good, but go ahead, Nihali.
Yes, Mia, I remembered us running into this and you explained it to me very well, but if I had a VNet that is in a different excuse me, region than the vHub, what was your finding about that one? What was your recommendation about that one? I can't remember.
So the connections that you're able to build in Cloud Gateway, Multicloud, and then Cloud Connections, you're able to build those connections only between VNets and vHubs that are in the same region. So if you want to build a connection, you have to make sure that you have a cloud gateway deployed in the region that you want to work with. So that's I don't know how is it supported in Azure exactly. If you can connect vHub with VNets from different regions, probably it is supported. But from our point of view, you should be in. Sorry, I think I loaded the wrong one. But you should have Cloud Gateway with vHub deployed in the same place as you have the tagged virtual machine.
Yeah, so the behavior. Okay,
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
So when you actually go to this SDR app, I think I can navigate to this one. You're going to be able to see that this one is in West Europe, and the cloud gateway, sorry, this one that I already have deployed in Azure, is also in West Europe.
Yeah, so the behavior I saw, and if I'm not mistaken, I think we discussed it with Steve as well. The behavior I saw was that from Azure side, we can connect a vHub to, let's say my vHub is in West US, I can connect it to a VNet that's in West US too, but it wouldn't show up here in your the realization portal. So in the
Yes,
interconnect, yeah.
that's possible. So we are because we want to manage the traffic from the router perspective. We require the router to be there
Yes.
to build the tunnel to VNets.
But it did work end to end. In other words, I was able to see the routes propagate all the way to the branch. And I think that, so it does work. It's just that it didn't show up over there. So good. Thanks for clarifying that. And I'm just going through my list just to make sure we're good. I think you covered it. I think this was awesome. Really loved the end-to-end demo, both the greenfield and brownfield. So appreciate, Mia, all your hard work and showing us
And
this
it's all live, guys. It's
all
like
live. You pulled it off.
I could have recorded the screen, okay? Because when you screen recording and showing it later to people, it always works. But I just wanted to fill the thrill with you, and also in
Yeah.
case there was something to troubleshoot with you.
Yeah, love the thrill, right? In our jobs. Awesome. Good stuff, Mia. It's good. Yeah. So Steve, over to you for the troubleshooting. We did have the real troubleshooting a couple places, which is good.
Yeah, so I did want to, before I get into the troubleshooting too deep, I do want to show kind of the end-to-end. So I've deployed, just like Mia did, a greenfield environment earlier today. And so what I have created, using kind of a diagram that we've shown earlier, is essentially I've got a site on the left, connected into an environment where we have our vWAN and a vHub within that, with two Cisco 8000 Vs, the NVA appliances. I have it peering to a VNet, I've just called it prod, with a subnet of 172.250.0.0/22. And I have a server in that VNet. It's just a little Linux server, 172.250.0.4. And so what I want to show is essentially just a couple of things on the actual 8000 Vs deployed in the vHub. And then I'll show you the enterprise side of this and how we're able to reach those devices in the actual VNet. So just to show kind of the end-to-end view of the connectivity. And by all means, jump in and ask questions. Hopefully the troubleshooting will be pretty interactive. I'll show a few things, but hopefully there's some good questions to come out of it. So first, if I go to the multi-cloud dashboard, you can see I do have a cloud gateway created. Right, this is going to be our vHub, East US Hub. We can see that in Azure here. If I look at the name of this vHub, it's East US Hub. And then if I dive into it, we don't really have a lot of traffic. This is a lab, so I've done some pings and some SSHs, but that's about it. We got two routers, so these are our 8000 Vs. We can see I've given them a system IP of 1.250.1.1 and 1.2. And the reason this is relevant, and you'll see it, is when we look at the remote side, the branch side, the next hop for the subnets that sit in those VNets will be these system IPs. So essentially, those are the tunnel endpoints for the traffic going into the cloud. And then we can see our branches that are associated to it. So for simplicity purposes, I'm just going to look at one branch. We're looking at this LAS branch here. And then we've got our VNet, which has been created as well. So if we look at the actual host VNet, it's just called prod VNet. And we've got this associated with our VPN of 100 on the SD-WAN side. Okay. If I look at the devices,
So Steve, real quick, going back to all the sites you showed us, does that mean that this SD-WAN fabric currently has all of those that are part of it?
Yeah, so today we've got a few branches installed as part of this lab. And then what I've done is added connectivity into Azure, specifically the East US region. And we're now building tunnels between these branches and the 8,000 Vs that are sitting in this Azure region.
Okay, got it.
Does that make sense? So this end-to-end connectivity is in place. It's been built. And you can actually see, if I were to click on one of these routers that I've deployed, we can see all the statistics. We can look at the interfaces. So these are the interfaces that we've configured on it. Basically, if you looked at the virtual router, there would be two interfaces, a Gigabit Ethernet 1, a Gigabit Ethernet 2. One is on kind of the transport side. So this is where we're building our tunnels. And then Gigabit Ethernet 2 is on our service side. So this is the connection into the vHub itself, where we're building BGP peers and learning those VNet routes. We can also look at the tunnels. So I mentioned we have some tunnels today. I already stood up. If I just look at, for example, that one branch we want to focus in on, so I'm going to clear all these out. And we can just look up this LAS branch. So from the first router in US East 1, we've got a tunnel built to this branch. And we can look at things like loss, latency, and jitter, right? So understanding what is the performance of that path. It looks like it's somewhere between 10 and 15 milliseconds. Really no jitter. We're not pushing a lot of traffic, so I'm not going to bother showing that. But the idea is we've built kind of that end-to-end connectivity. And because these aren't just iOS XE routers, right, virtual routers, I can actually SSH. So if I go into this vHub again, we can see we've got our network virtual appliances. And if I look at the instance info, I can get the public IP addresses of those two Cisco 8000 Vs. And I've actually got SSH open to the public IPs. You'd probably lock that down, or at least restrict the source IPs that could access it. But in my case, it's a lab, so I'm just going to go ahead and connect right to one of the routers. And you can see this is that virtual router. If I look at, for example, let's look at my, we'll actually be able to see the BGP peer to the vHub. So if I do like a show BGP VPN v4 unicast, and by all means, we can do this from the GUI. I'm just showing this in case you wanted to see how we could look at it in the CLI as well. Actually, let me do a summary, better output. So this is the peers that are built to the vHub. The address space I specified, if you recall in Mia's demo, we talked about how there's a pool that gets specified during the setup. I used the address space 10.250.0.0. So these peering addresses are actually pulled from that address space. We can see we've had it up for a bit. We are receiving some routes. So as far as what we're getting from the vHubs, it's going to be these two routes right here. So we've got our 10.250.0.0, which is the pool I provided, and then we've got the 172.250.0.0, which, if I go back to the drawing, is our VNet up here, 10.250.0.0. Okay, so that shows the connectivity there. Likewise, if I were to go in and actually look at, for example, the route table of the vHub, we should see that we're learning all of these branch routes, the 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and so on, from the SD-WAN router. Let's just give this a second to load. There we go. So we can see we've got the 172.250.0.0. That is coming from this specific VNet that was defined as part of the attachment. And then we've got all of these branch subnets that's being learned from the SD-WAN router. And you can verify this because the SD-WAN router does have an AS number of 65.521. So that just shows kind of the routing between the virtual routers deployed in Azure and the vHub. If I look at the branch side of this, yes, question?
Yeah, so Steve, while we are on that cloud gateway, the SSH screen that you had,
Sure.
What does the show IP interface brief look like? Would these be using IPs from that same? Yeah, so we have two IPs that are used from the vHub, right? vHub space.
Yes. Yep. So that's where we've established our underlay and then our overlay connectivity. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you.
And then that public IP that I showed you earlier, that would get mapped to this Gigabit Ethernet 1 IP. So that's how we're able to build our tunnels across that.
Mhm.
All right, so let me just go into the LAS branch then. And I'm going to do this one from the GUI just so you can see I can see the same information just in a different place in case you're not a CLI person. So if I look at the routing table now, on the branch side of this, specifically in this VPN 100, I should see that 172.250.0.0 route. So let's take a look. Yep, it's here at the bottom. So I have the 172.250.0.0, and we can see I'm receiving this, and the next hop address is one of those 8000B routers. So for whatever reason, this GUI does only take one of the routers. If I were to do it in the CLI, you'd see it's both the 1.250.1.1 and 1.250.1.2. So we've got both the address space that was being used for the vHub as well as the address space of the VNet itself. And then just to take that a step further, I should be able to do a ping. So if I ping from my interface on this remote router over VPN 100, I should be able to reach this demo server 172.250.0.4. Let's just verify that. So I'm going to do a ping. We could do this from the CLI as well of the remote side if we wanted to. And you can see it is successful. And so 575 received. If we did want to actually do this on the CLI, I could jump in. So we do have a interface within the SD-WAN manager where, for example, if you didn't want to have the public IPs open to SSH, I could actually SSH to the device over the SD-WAN tunnel from the SD-WAN manager itself. So if I were to jump into LAS, for example, and log in from here, and I can do the same ping just manually. So I can do a ping VRF 100 to 250.0.4, and that's successful. So I just wanted to show that end-to-end connectivity before we looked at maybe some of the troubleshooting steps we'd look at if for some reason maybe these routers weren't coming up or they weren't visible in the SD-WAN manager. And so just kind of starting from there, if, for example, we were able to deploy the NVAs, but we didn't see them showing up in SD-WAN manager, the first thing we'd want to do is we could check their control connectivity. So I mentioned in the first session, when the devices come up, they build control connections to the SD-WAN manager and the SD-WAN controller. And we can actually see that in the UI by looking at the control connections. Or there's some pretty cool commands we can do on the router itself too. So we can see right now it's connecting to one manager and two controllers. If I go back to the session in SSH, to see this in the CLI, we would be doing a show SD-WAN control connections. And this just shows that my connections are up. If for some reason they were not up, there is a command called show connection history, which will tell us if there's an error. So for example, I might have this error here, DISCVBD, and I can look it up in the chart above. And this one is disconnect vBond after register reply, which is actually not really an error. It just means we've learned everything we need from the validator. So we disconnected it. But some of the ones that you'll see more commonly would be, for example, a decon fail. Right? This would mean there's an IP connectivity reachability. You really hopefully wouldn't see too many other than that from this standpoint. Sometimes when you're deploying a physical one and for whatever reason you have the device invalidated or certificate issue, you might see something like this. Pure board ID cert not verified. But again, that's pretty rare. These would just be some of the initial things you would look at if for some reason that connectivity wasn't there. You could also just do something as simple as look at the running config, and you could ping this vBond right here and just make sure IP reachability is there. Was there a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to call out that decon fail error. I remember getting that, and for me, the particular issue was that even that port 12346 is not reachable. For example, the firewall is filtering it. Is that something you would get if that's not reachable?
Yeah,
The
so
vBond.
it would be a couple of exactly. So you would get that if, for example, you couldn't resolve this FQDN. You would also get that if your ports were closed and you couldn't reach out. So looking at like the network security group would make sense at that point. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, let's see. I showed some of the routes. We also have the ability within the SD-WAN manager, we do have full logging. So if there is a problem and we're seeing maybe flapping or the BGP neighbors having an issue, we do have what we call alarms. We have events, and then we have audit logs. So alarms being the most severe, events being more like notifications, and then our audit logs are used to determine if a change was made, who made that change, that type of thing. So, if for example, if I just look at one of these logs, we're just getting routing table updates as an example. But this is another area you can look if you are having issues from a connectivity standpoint, or even an odd routing issue. We do also have troubleshooting tools, and I glanced over them a second ago. But if I do go into one of the Azure 8000V network virtual appliances, at the bottom here, we can do a lot of those things like I showed the ping. We can do trace routes. We look at the control connections, tunnel health, packet captures. So let's say I wanted to actually capture the packets going between that specific server I've got, and anything in and out of there, I could take and capture packets on. This is my Gigabit Ethernet 2, which is my VPN 100 interface. So that's where all of my app traffic would be. I could filter that based on source destination IP, and we could actually do a packet capture. And essentially that's going to run for 5 minutes or until a 5 meg buffer is filled. And then you can download the PCAP right from the SD-WAN manager. So if there was something weird happening, you just want to see the traffic flow between a specific server or potentially all of the devices talking over your service VPN, you could do that from here. Let's see, I'm just looking at my notes. Yes, Nahali.
Steve, one of the scenarios that I ran into, maybe we could take a quick look at that. So if we go under configuration and cloud on-ramp for multi-cloud, I'm sure there's a better way to navigate this, but there is the concept of intent realize. If you go down, I think there is, if you go further down, is there a place where we could go to? Yes.
Oh, no, not this one.
Cloud connections, yes, here.
No, I'm looking.
Is there a visual for the virtual networks for
Here we go.
Azure? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, if we had remember the issue we ran into, if you want to talk about it a little bit, where if something is in a different region than the vHub, is that supported? So if I have a VNet that is in a different region than the vHub, would that still work?
Yeah, good question. The idea is we're peering. You would need to have a vHub in the region which your VNet resides for it to work. So if you had a VNet and it was only in one region, and you did not have a vHub in that region, then we would not be able to do this intent management piece. I believe that's what the issue is that we ran into, right? Was we had to go ahead and either create a new VNet in the region with the vHub or create a vHub in the region with the VNet. So that is kind of required.
And if we create that peering manually through Azure, we could still do it, or is it not supported? That was the part I couldn't remember.
So it will work, absolutely. We wouldn't, correct. You could do that manually. It just wouldn't be through the intent management piece.
Yes, and that's that's the behavior that I have seen, that I can do end-to-end routing. At least that's how it's working in my lab, where I could do the peering manually through the Azure portal. It just wouldn't show as realized or a green tick on the SD-WAN manager side.
Exactly. Yeah. So we didn't quite get to that point in the demo earlier where we did the greenfield, but the idea is after we deploy that VNet, right, we're tagging after we deploy our gateway, we're tagging the VNets that we then want to attach to that gateway. In my case, I attached this one prod one. And then we go to that intent realization and basically say for these VNets, what VRF or VPN, I should say, should these be associated with? And so that's exactly what we were looking at, that intent management.
So I think we're just about time. Anything else? So Steve, this was awesome. Great insights on troubleshooting.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover. So I appreciate it.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and I hope you enjoyed this recording, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.